How's it going, guys? So, I just got done watching the Curtis Stevens David Lemieux fight that took place last night. Congratulations to David Lemieux, devastating knockout victory in the third round with a left hook. Set up beautifully, landed flush. Candidate for knockout of the year, no doubt about that. Now, let's talk about how this fight went. So, these two guys were pretty much, they had a lot in common. Very similar fighters. They're both short, stocky middleweights. They're both known for their power. Both guys are pressure fighters. They both had an eighth round stoppage defeat against Gennady Golovkin. So, they went into this fight with quite a lot in common. And I think that, a lot of people expected that this was going to be the kind of fight where whoever lands first was going to win. Now, I favoured Lemieux. I favoured Lemieux from the beginning. I never made a prediction video because, to be honest, it was that kind of fight. I mean, what really was there to say? Either guy had the power to knock the other one out. It's just that I felt that Lemieux, being the younger, fresher, more energetic fighter at this stage, I felt that he had an edge in the fight, and that proved to be the case. Now, the fight was very high paced from the opening bell. I mean, both guys came out, they weren't wasting any time. I mean, these are my kind of fighters, this was my kind of fight. Both guys got on the front foot. Both guys were looking to take the other out. They were both throwing hooks, both throwing power shots. David Lemieux, he seemed to have a little bit more variety in his punches. Curtis Stevens, I think after about halfway through the first round, Curtis Stevens looked a little bit wary in there. He was going behind that guard, and I think that he was really starting to feel the strength and the power of Lemieux. I just feel that Lemieux, to me, he was the stronger guy and the fitter guy and the more physical guy in there, and it was evident from the first round. And when Lemieux would land a hook to the body or something, you could really see it having an effect. Curtis Stevens was being winded by those punches. And, the second round, Curtis Stevens opened up a little bit more. I felt he was, he understood that he had to do something to keep Lemieux off him. Otherwise, Lemieux was just going to steamroll him. But it just wasn't enough. And, the strength, the power of David Lemieux, the younger man, the stronger man. He was slightly bigger than Curtis Stevens, too. So, yeah, it was a bad fight for Stevens. His career is probably over now because that knockout was fucking brutal. And I really don't see a way back for Stevens. I mean, he could come back. There's still winnable fights, but there isn't any, world title opportunities or whatnot. So unless he wants to just continue being a fringe contender, I don't really see much point or much reason for him to continue. As for David Lemieux, there are some excellent fights out there for him. I think that being with Golden Boy, it seems inevitable that at some point in the near future he's going to be fighting Canelo Alvarez. After Canelo beats the brakes off of fucking Chavez Jr., of course. But yeah, after Canelo beats Chavez Jr., I wouldn't be surprised if David Lemieux was the next opponent because it's an in-house fight for Golden Boy, and it'd be a good way for Canelo to really test the waters at middleweight and see what he can do at 160. Do you think David Lemieux has a chance in that fight? Personally, I'm not so sure because David Lemieux, although he is a very tough guy, although he's a very powerful guy, technically he is limited. His footwork isn't great. He's shown in the past that he isn't too great in the later rounds if he can't stop you early. So, to be honest, I think that Lemieux, he would have a chance in the fight. He would have a puncher's chance. However, I think that Canelo, in my opinion, is a much more durable fighter than most of the guys that Lemieux has fought in the past. And to be honest, I just think that Canelo would probably outbox him and may stop him late. Canelo's a decent boxer. He can counter. He's got good timing and head movement and whatnot. And I just think that the fight would be a case of him cracking Lemieux's code. And once Canelo finds his timing and finds finds an exploit in David Lemieux, because David Lemieux does have a lot of technical and defensive deficiencies. So I think that Canelo would work him out after a few rounds, and I just think Canelo would take him out. But I'd be interested to see the fight, because like I said, it's a fight at middleweight. It'd show us what Canelo's got at middleweight, because he hasn't really fought there yet. All his fights have been at catch weight. So, I wouldn't mind seeing it. It'd be interesting. There's other fights for Lemieux. Obviously, Golovkin's fighting Jacobs next week, and I don't know if Golovkin beats Jacobs, then I don't really think that Lemieux would be too keen on a rematch because we saw what Triple G was able to do. He just completely shut he just completely shut Lemieux down with that jab, and I really don't think that Lemieux was prepared for it, and I don't think there's really much he could do differently in a rematch. I mean, he was comprehensively outboxed the first time, so yeah, I wouldn't really be that interested in a rematch. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Okay, if Lemieux wants to take Triple G, if he thinks that he can do something different next time, then obviously I'm going to be all for it. But if Danny Jacobs is able to defeat Triple G, which is a possibility because Danny Jacobs is very dangerous and the fight's in his hometown, so if he's able to pull off the upset, then a Danny Jacobs David Lemieux fight seems plausible to me. I wouldn't mind seeing that. David Lemieux obviously Danny Jacobs is a very different stylistic matchup than Triple G is. So perhaps David Lemieux thinks that he can. Perhaps he'll think that he can find Danny Jacobs' chin easier than he was able to find Triple G's. So I don't know. It'd be interesting, but there's good fights out there for Lemieux. I think this was this highlight reel knockout that he just got. The way that he savagely and brutally knocked Curtis Stevens out. It'll open up a lot of opportunities for him. That there's going to be a lot more intrigue in David Lemieux than there was before. Now, I don't know how significant it was because I mean, look, Curtis Stevens is a tough guy. He's a hard puncher, but there's a lot of middleweights out there, in my opinion, that would beat Curtis Stevens. So I don't know. I don't know how significant this is, but it's something. It's a good highlight reel knockout win against a guy that's got a big mouth and who a lot of boxing fans know about. So it's great for Lemieux. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. It was a good fight. I enjoyed it. It was my kind of fight, like I said. A brutal knockout, two pressure fighters, two guys that are coming to war. That's what I like to see. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.